Testing, testing. What's up, internet? My name is Matt Santana, and a question that I get asked often is, what lens should I buy? Now, I have gone back and forth on many different lenses. What I can help you with is how to pick out a lens. It all depends on what style you're trying to get, what you're trying to do, what you find yourself shooting more of. Everybody has a different kit. If you're a real estate photographer, you're gonna have a lot of wide angle lenses. If you're a portrait photographer, you're gonna have a lot of primes. If you're a sports photographer, you're gonna have a lot of zoom. Or if you're an event photographer, you're gonna have a lot of zoom lenses. So it all depends on what you're trying to do and what style you have. Now, the best part about these lenses is that typically certain lenses are used for specific use cases. Like, for example, the 24-70 is like the go-to lens for wedding photography. And it's not because it makes wedding photos look the best. It's because it is one lens that you can zoom in and out. You can get a 24 or a 70 inch, usually very sharp. And if you're running and gunning and moving around in a wedding, you need something that is versatile. You don't need something that you need to take off the lens and put on another one very often. So that is why people say the 24-70 is a wedding photographer's lens. So if you're just getting into photography and you hear things like that, don't let that discourage you from purchasing a lens. Just know that that is typically what people use it for because it has a great usage in that scenario. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the differences of a zoom and a prime lens. So first things first, the obvious difference between a zoom and a prime lens, and benefit or weakness, is that a zoom lens gives you more versatility in focal length. So you can pay one price for a lens that has multiple focal lengths versus a prime lens, which only has one focal length. So for example, I'm shooting right now with the 15-35 lens. So what that means that it can shoot at 15 millimeters or it can shoot at 35 millimeters. Now, my favorite lens that I use for 99% of my photography work is the 35 millimeter 1.8. Now that is a prime lens. I only have 35 millimeters to shoot from, but it is extremely sharp. That gives me certain advantages over this particular lens, which again shoots from 15 to 35, but at 35 millimeters, it only shoots 2.8. Now that's not that much of a difference, but it can change things depending on how the lens is manufactured. Here are some of the drawbacks of a zoom lens. So when you get the focal length, you don't necessarily get the sharpness. There are certain limitations to zoom lenses that sometimes mean that certain focal lengths have different apertures. So this lens is 2.8 aperture all the way through. So from 15 to 35, you're going to be able to get a consistent aperture of 2.8. In some kit lenses or lenses that come with cameras, or just some of the other lenses out there that are zoom lenses, you may get like a variable. You may get like 3.5 to 5.6 or something like that. Now, that is the best or fastest aperture that you can get at different focal lengths on that particular lens. So for example, let's just say this 15 to 35 means that I can only get 2.8 at 15, but at 35 I get 3.5. That is what I'm referring to. It's not sharp all the way through. Now, depending on the quality of your lens and whether it's a zoom or a prime, that also impacts how much bokeh you get. Now, bokeh is the blurred background effect that you normally see in nice portrait photography, and bokeh is going to be a lot more prominent on prime lenses, which is why they're favored for portrait photography. So if you're getting my point here about certain lenses being used for certain applications, when in reality they can be used for anything, but they're good for those things because people like the way they look. So if you use a prime lens like a 35 or 50 millimeter, you're gonna get a nice crisp photo. You're gonna get nice detail in their face. Typically those lenses are, since they are prime lenses, they can get very fast. So you can get like 1.2, 1.4, 1.8 and so forth. So those lenses are typically very fast, and they're gonna be very sharp, and they're gonna get that blurred background, with the circles of the lights or whatever are nice and oval, or sometimes they're very circular. It all depends on the brand and the glass, but typically you will see a blurred background where any light or any gathering of light or anything like that would be a nice little circle. That is called bokeh, and you typically get more of that on a prime lens. Now, when it comes to picking out which lens I'm going to use in different scenarios, I always ask myself a couple questions. Do I have feet? Now, that's an obvious question. Yes, I have feet. But what I mean by do I have feet is, do I have the ability to move? Do I have the ability to get closer to my subject, move away, or am I behind some sort of barrier, or am I further back? So if I'm further back and I need to get a really tight shot on something, then that means I'm probably going to get the 70-200 so that I can zoom in. And when you look at the photo, you're going to see a very compressed, a very tight shot that looks like it was almost taken closer and with a 50mm, if you see what I'm saying. So different scenarios, different lenses, and that's why I go back to think about your style, think about what you're going to use it for, think about the types of things that you're going to be taking photos of, because you can really box yourself into a certain style by only purchasing certain lenses based on, whatever preconception or myth that you may have read out there on the internet. So always try every lens you can before you buy. I recommend renting it if you want to try out lenses, especially some of these expensive lenses, because these lenses are getting expensive, and you don't want to spend that money on a lens and then find out that you don't like it or it doesn't fit your style or whatever. So those are some ways that I think that you as a photographer can leverage the differences between primes and zooms. Personally, I have both. Again, the 35 and the 15-35. I use the 35 most of the time for certain reasons, and I use the 15-35 for this type of content creation, because this is a video, and I need the lens to be at about what is this, about 22? If you see here, this is 35 and that's 15. So as you can see, 15mm is ideal right now because I have a crop on this camera, because this is a EOS R, and there's a crop in 4K. But anyway, I hope this video was helpful. This is just me going over some things that I hear on the internet and people have questions about. It's always the question of what lens, what's the best lens, whether I should get a zoom or a prime. All you can do is try it out and pick out something that is good for your style. But if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know down below. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit subscribe, make sure you hit that bell so that you'll be notified when I drop another video. And other than that, I will see you in my next video.